last 24 hours. Powered by Yiddish24, provided to you by The Click.
Good morning. Today is Thursday, Parshas Vayeshev, Chuf Aleph Kislev, Tuf Shein Pai Vuv, and it's December 11th, Tuf Shein 25. My name is Gershy Schwarcz and I'm your host on Edge. Now, from Amdani at the Chuf Aleph Kislev event last night, to Trump being okay, to losing key seats in Miami, and stealing oil from Venezuela, and Google being the richest person in the world, potentially, let's get right to it. But first, Pen Pal. To enter the raffle that I've been reporting here for the last few days, for Pen Pal, please call 845 or text 845-671-1775. Specifically, I say call or text. Press number 5 to leave the name and number there. Pen Pal on Edge. Don't email and don't WhatsApp because it confuses the system. And also don't do it twice if you don't mind. We've gotten thousands of requests. Every one of you, Ezra Shem is going into the raffle, and we're doing it manually, the old-fashioned way. Because you know why? Because I really want someone to win. Okay, leave your name and phone number clearly and say Pen Pal on Edge when you press 5 on this number, 845-671-1775. Now, what is Pen Pal? Very simple. It's a device that speaks. Now, you have books, a collection of books you can buy for your kids. Great books, all sizes, all ages, all stages, storybooks, activity books for the little ones, the babies even. You put the pen on the objects in the book, the pictures, or even the page where the story is written, and it reads the story for you. It's like an audio book on a pen. Very simple. And also, it's an activity. It's a game. No internet connection, no nothing, no videos. It's kosher v'yosher, okay? It's a simple pen that plays with you. All right, my friends, that's Pen Pal for you. Available in all stores, by the way. But here on Edge, we've partnered with them for someone lucky, one on Edge listener, that is going to be a lucky winner on Monday, Be'ezra Shem Yisborach, to win the entire set with a pen. And on Sunday, but Monday we're going to announce the winner. And Be'ezra Shem Yisborach. Actually, we might do it on Monday. I want to do it live. So if I don't do it on Sunday, we're going to do it live here on Edge at the beginning or the end of the segment of the news. Okay? Very good. United States, if you have any questions or comments, always call me on the same number, 845-671-1775. There you could email me, and you could WhatsApp me, you could text, and whatever you want. Okay. United States forces have seized a large sanctioned oil tanker off the coast of Venezuela, sharply raising tensions with the Maduro regime, the Maduro government. The tanker, a very large crude carrier named Skipper, was under United States sanctions for its role in moving Iranian and Venezuelan oil in networks Washington links to terror groups such as the IRGC from Iran and the Hezbollah. It had loaded about 1.8 million barrels of Venezuelan crude oil, Murray crude oil, and was sailing under a false Guyana flag when the United States Coast Guard, Marines, and Special Forces arrived by helicopter from the aircraft carrier USS Gerald R. Ford and took control without any reported casualties. President Donald J. Trump proudly said, "We have just seized a tanker on the coast of Venezuela last night." Last night he said it. Large tanker, very large, largest one ever actually. Hello, Mr. Trump. And when asked about it, the oil, well, if he took the oil, he added, "We will keep it, I guess." Venezuela calls the move blatant theft and an act of international piracy, and says it will bring the case to international bodies, while Iran also condemns the seizure as a violation of international law. Interesting. Oil prices moved slightly higher after the operation, as traders watch to see if this is a start of a wider effort to hit Venezuela's main source of income, its oil exports. The United States has approved a new support and technology package for Pakistan's F-16 fighter jets, and at the same time is pressuring India to buy more American weapons. Washington says the F-16 deal is meant to help Pakistan maintain its existing fleet, not to upgrade it with new weapons, but New Delhi, India, is not happy about it and sees this as favoring its rival. At the same time, the United States is pushing India to deepen defense ties by buying more American aircraft and systems and move away from Putin's Russia. Well, Putin was in India recently making such a deal, obviously. India and Pakistan remain on edge, with regular firing reported along the line of control in Kashmir, and both sides keeping large forces in place, even though there is no official full-scale war at this time. The war in Cambodia and Thailand is still going on, by the way. Speaking of arms deals, Turkey, which Israel sees as a derogatory story, which is not really, they're scared of it. They're afraid. I mean, they know something we don't, obviously. Speaking of arms deals, Turkey and the United States are now in serious talks about, that could bring Turkey back into the F-35 stealth fighter jet program after more than 5 years. The U.S. ambassador in Ankara, Tom Barrack, said that the discussions could lead to a breakthrough in the coming months, but He repeated that that U.S. law will not allow Turkey to rejoin as long as it owns the Russian S-400 air defense system. Well, for those of you who don't know, Turkey was kicked out of the F-35 program and hit with sanctions in 2019 and 2020 after it bought the S-400 from Russia during Trump's first term, a move Washington says could expose NATO secrets and F-35 technology. President Trump and both Presidents Trump and Erdogan already discussed a possible return during their last White House meeting. For now, nothing is signed, and the entire deal still turns on one question: whether Turkey is ready to give up or remove the Russian S-400 system in order to get the American F-35 back. Speaking of wars and planes and money, Ukraine's President Vladimir Zelensky is under heavy pressure to accept giving up parts of Ukrainian territory, just as he holds urgent, wichtige talks with the coalition of the willing, quotes, of about 30 allied countries on how to end this bloody war. The coalition is mainly European and is working on security guarantees and possible international reassurance force that would help protect Ukraine on land, at sea, and in the air once there is a real ceasefire. The emergency call was triggered by a United States peace plan pushed by President Donald J. Trump, which includes major territorial concessions to Russia. Ukraine has sent back a detailed point-by-point response, but still faces strong pressure from Washington to sign quickly. Key leaders in Europe, including German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, and the one who got a slap in his face, French President Emmanuel Macron, and the lowest-rated Prime Minister in English history, I would say, British history, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, are trying to pull the talks back to Europe and say they oppose any peace that forces Ukraine to give up land under military threat. Zelensky, for his part, keeps repeating that Ukraine will not surrender territory and that the constitution does not even allow this, does not allow the government to trade away land, a stance that could block or even collapse the current US plan. Backing him, Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk says no one should pressure Zelensky on territorial concessions. We must all pressure Russia to end its aggression. Now we see how that's working for them. Meanwhile, the war on the ground continues. More people are dying. In the east, Russia is close to capturing the front line of city of Pokrovsk after months of street fighting, with Moscow claiming it had already taken the city, NATO officials saying that more than 95% of it is under Russian control, and Ukraine insisting it still holds the northern districts and is pushing Russian units back in new clashes. At the same time, Ukraine is hitting deep inside Russia with long-range drones that have struck a major platform in the Caspian Sea and a Russian Shadow Fleet tanker in the Black Sea, and triggered mass drone alerts and flight disruptions around Moscow, while NATO's Secretary General warns allies to prepare now for a much larger war if Russia is not stopped. So Bekitsa, 30 leaders tell Zelensky how to make peace, and he answers, fine, no problem, but the map stays Ukrainian. In Ukraine, they held a levaya for the Sifra Kodesh that were burned in the historic Sadigera Klois about 2 weeks ago. The Rebbe of Sadigera, Yerushalayim, traveled to Ukraine and personally took part in gathering the burned holy Sfurim for burial together with the local Kehillas. In Bulgaria, the Prime Minister, Rosen Zelyaskov, that's how you pronounce his name, for now you know. Okay, and his whole government have resigned after weeks of huge street protests after corruption and a tough new budget just weeks before the country joins the euro. Now, for those of you who know this name and can pronounce it very well, please let me know, and maybe you'll join a raffle into winning a shout-out here on Edge. In Bolivia, former President Luis Arce, also this name, by the way, joins the same raffle, okay, has been arrested in corruption investigation, accused of helping divert about $700 million from an indigenous development fund during his time as economy minister, only a month after leaving office. And in Honduras, speaking of corruption, like we've reported, prosecutors have issued a new international arrest warrant for ex-president Juan Orlando Hernandez days after he returned home after being pardoned by President Donald J. Trump from the United States prison in Virginia, reopening allegations for corruption and drug links. And the President of the United States got a peace prize. From whom? From FIFA, the Federation Internationale de Football Association, which organizes the World Cup, invented the FIFA Peace Prize and gave it to Donald J. Trump at the 2026 World Cup draw in Washington, D.C. on December 5th. Well, it's already 2026? I believe so. People are holding it like they're keeping Hanukkah earlier, so I guess you can do that too. Anyway, London-based right groups Fair Square that's what they're called, filed an 8-page complaint to FIFA's Ethics Committee, saying the President, President Gianni Infantino, broke FIFA's own rule and that it must stay politically neutral. We see how that's working for them. Well, look at their pages about the Gaza and all that. The Trump administration is now considering terrorism-related sanctions against UNRWA, the UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees. UNRWA, for those of you who don't know what it is, UNRWA is a UN agency that gives schools, clinics, food, and other aid to millions of registered Palestinian refugees in Gaza, West Bank, Jordan, Lebanon, and Syria. Israel says UNRWA is not neutral, and that its systems keep refugee status alive for generations, even if they're dead. That some of its schools and staff support anti-Semitism and terror, and that Hamas used UNRWA sites and even some workers of UNRWA for the October 7th attack and other terror activity across the region. Because of this, Israel passed laws in the Knesset recently to ban UNRWA from operating in Israeli territory and officially labeled it as a terrorist organization. And now the Trump administration in the US and Washington is weighing terrorism-related sanctions that could put UNRWA or some of its people on a US terror watch list. Washington has already frozen UNRWA funding, and this new step could go much further, possibly treating the agency like a terrorist group under US law and putting huge pressure on its work in Gaza and in the region. Along the border with Egypt, Mitzrayim, and Israel, forces say they broke up a weapon and drug smuggling cell after spotting it on cameras, chasing the suspects with ground troops, aircraft, and a drone, and arresting 6 Israelis with about 21 kilos of drugs in their vehicle. For once, it wasn't terrorists. Well, you could call them terrorists too. Storm Brian caused a major search and rescue operation when an Israeli yacht that sailed from Ashdod, we reported yesterday, lost contact near Cyprus. 5 people on board. Israeli, Cypriot and Greek crews searched in heavy winds and high waves until contact was finally restored, Baruch Hashem, and the yacht and the people were finally reported safe back heading towards Haifa. Yesterday we mentioned that Khaled Mish'el rejected the idea of disarming Hamas, telling Arab media that total disarmament is not even a question, it's a big no-no. He suggests a weapon freeze and international force instead, meaning you can freeze my weapons, but you can't take it away from me. But only if Hamas keeps its arsenal, in other words. Israeli officials answered that under the new United States peace plan from Donald J. Trump, Hamas will be disarmed and Gaza will be fully demilitarized, whether Hamas agrees or not. In Israel, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu criticizes former security officials today. He says they are using an organized pressure campaign against him. These officials demand an independent group to investigate the failures of October 7th. Netanyahu refuses to let outside people lead the inquiry. He insists the government will control the investigation. Speaking of storms and corruption, there are severe floods in Washington state in the Pacific Northwest today, and tens of thousands of people may need to evacuate their homes. Governor Bob Ferguson has declared a statewide emergency, warning that lives will be at stake in the coming days. Hopefully not. And the National Guard is helping rescue people in flooded homes and cars. In other news, President Donald J. Trump was asked a question at the White House yesterday about the Democratic surprise wins in Miami and in Georgia. In Miami, Democrat Eileen Higgins just won the mayoral runoff, becoming the city's first Democratic mayor in nearly 30 years, and its first woman mayor, after defeating Trump-endorsed Republican Emilio Gonzalez. In Georgia, Democratic Representative Eric Gisler flipped a traditionally Republican state house district 121 seat near Athens, winning a special election by 200 votes over Republican Mark Dutch Guest IV. Reporters then asked Trump, "Are you worried about all the Democrats' winnings yesterday in Miami and Georgia?" So he responded, "I don't worry about it for whatever reason. When you win the presidency, you seem to lose the midterms, even if you win the presidency by a lot and you do a great job as a president. It doesn't make sense. Usually I can figure things out, but I don't know why. But other than that, we should win. The economy is roaring." End quote. Before we continue, a quick word from our sponsors. Well, if you're hungry, and it's Thursday night, you can get all the foods that Thursday night has to offer at Shawarma Delight Thursday night at Spring Valley Marketplace. You can go to SDNY store, and the drink is on the house if you say on edge. Any drink you want from the fridge. Just pick a drink, say on edge, pick a drink, and drink it. On us. YS Capital Group. You can, well, not on us, but you can take a loan On us, you can get a good deal if you mention on Edge, but 718-831-2168 and he'll tell you more. 718-831-2168. Next, Arrive Express. Arrive Express, 845-622-1111. From Monroe, Arrive Express, 845-254-1111. A long-time on-edge supporter. So, I'm a long-time Arrive supporter. Sponsor, Protobyte. Who's Protobyte? Well, also a long-time supporter of On Edge. I must give them, a shout-out. So Protobyte deserves the shout-out. Why? Not just because they're sponsoring On Edge. Because they're actually very good. People have called me to tell me how the business is roaring, like Trump likes to say, and they're doing the best they could ever have done, ever in history. The business has been rising and going and growing. 347-354-1237. Let's talk about local politics, shall we? House Speaker Mike Johnson, Minority Leader, Hakeem Jeffries, and Senate Minority Leader, the Jewish guy, Schumer, participated in the U.S. Capitol menorah lighting. The menorah is made of steel of missiles shot down by Israel's Iron Dome. On the economic front, the Federal Reserve has cut interest rates again by lowering its main rate by a quarter percentage points to a new target range of 3.5 to 3.75%. And as it tries to support a weaker job market without letting inflation rise again. I don't know how that's going to affect the mortgage rates, but hopefully. At the same time, President Trump has launched a new $1 million gold card visa for $5 million, an expedited residency program for wealthy immigrants and companies that can pay this $5 million, saying the United States should attract the best of the best, not refugees who are escaping their countries with nothing. The administration also plans to require visitors from dozens of visa waiver countries to provide 5 years of social media history before they are allowed to come to the United States of America. The House has passed a roughly $900 billion defense bill that raises pay for U.S. troops and authorizes new high-tech spending, including the Golden Dome missile defense system, a long-range shield inspired by Israel's Iron Dome, together with next-generation fighters, ships, and drones. Fighter jets, ships, and drones. Speaking of the US scraping through your social media history before you come into the searching through your social media history, who do you think will be running the checks? Well, you guessed, AI. Sergey Brin, who is the founder of Gemini, has now passed Jeff Bezos to become the 4th richest person in the world as Alphabet stock keeps climbing on excitement over its Gemini AI. Alphabet shares rose a bit over 1% on last Tuesday. It's old news, but I'm just telling you now because it's interesting, and are up about 10% over the past month, helped by a nearly $5 billion Berkshire Hathaway stake that signaled strong confidence in Google's AI future. Google's new Gemini 3 model is beating top rivals like ChatGPT, Grok on many tests and trivia, math, and coding. And it was trained only on Google's own TPU chips, not NVIDIA GPUs chips, which makes investors less afraid of an AI bubble driven only by expensive hardware. At the same time, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth has picked Google's Gemini for the new Gen AI Mill platform, a Pentagon system that will give soldiers and staff a built-in generative AI tool. ChatGPT is still the giant in this space with more than 800 million weekly users. Weekly users. But Gemini is catching up and fast, and helping push Brin's fortune to around $240 billion. Well, close to Elon Musk's $400 billion, but he's surpassed definitely Jeff Bezos, for sure. Oracle has lost, by the way, I'm just saying. Historical facts of the day provided to you by The Click. Tens of thousands of Chassidim gathered last night in Satmar, Chuf Aleph Kislev celebration. And guess who visited? Zohar Mamdani was there. Zohar Mamdani came to celebrate with them and obviously to rejoin and to, start a new chapter after many people didn't vote for him. I even heard one of the people there on the video that was showing, asking him if he, I'm sorry for not voting for you. He says, no problem, new chapter, new beginnings, fresh beginnings. And he danced there, and he had a weird couple on his head, mind you. I don't know why he had that, but the point is, it was fun to see. Yesterday was Chuf Aleph Kislev, marking the Satmar Rebbe Rabbi Yoel Teitelbaum, the Divrei Zachat Tzadik Kudish Levrucha, who was saved from the Nazis in 1944, him along with other 1,300 plus Jews. New York City Mayor-elect Zohar Mamdani attended both major events. First, the Chuf Aleph Kislev event, Satmar, Williamsburg, and then continuing to the large celebration at the Armory in Crown Heights. Okay, Rabbi Isai, with that, my friends, we will complete today's segment. and have yourselves a wonderful day. Remember, you can enter the raffle again by calling this number here, 845-671-1775. Press number 5 to leave the words pen pal on edge to win this wonderful pen pal thingy. The ad is already out, so I'm not going to show it now, but maybe tomorrow I'll show it to you, the video ad. You can check it out on my channels, on YouTube, or wherever you go. Find it by searching for my name, Edgeware Studios, or Gershy Schwarcz, whatever you want. And thank you so much for joining me today. Have a wonderful day. Stay informed and stay on edge. We'll see you tomorrow. Be'ez Hashem Yisborach.
Your daily report of the news of the last 24 hours, powered by Yiddish24, provided to you by The Click.